They'll clap for you when the crowd does, but vanish when the silence begins. See, everybody loves a rising star until that rise starts blinding their comfort. When you're broken, they'll say they're praying for you. But when you're building, they'll prey on you. And that's the quiet truth nobody prepares you for. Success doesn't just change your life, it exposes it. Look, I've been there, standing alone in rooms I once filled with laughter, hearing echoes of names I thought were permanent. But pain? Pain is the sculptor of the real. It carves away illusion until all that's left is you, raw, unfiltered, undeniable. This speech isn't about bitterness. It's about awakening. It's about learning that loyalty isn't measured by who smiles when you win, but who stands when you lose. And I know it hurts. But you're about to see that loneliness isn't punishment, it's preparation. Because when the noise fades, that's when your real circle begins. Brother, every scar on your skin is a map, not a stain. A map that leads straight back to the moments that made you, marked you, and nearly broke you. But here's the truth. Most people spend their lives trying to erase those lines, when those lines are the proof they've lived. See, a scar isn't just skin healing, it's memory learning to breathe again. It's your past whispering, I'm still here, but I don't hurt like I used to. That's not shame, that's navigation. That's cartography of the soul, tracing where you've been so you can chart where you're going. But most of us, we get lost in those lines. We treat our pain like it's permanent, like every wound has to stay open to remind us who hurt us. And you know what happens? We start building walls out of the very bricks that were meant to become bridges. Listen to me. The past is a teacher, not a prison guard, but only if you stop mistaking memory for identity. What happened to you isn't who you are. What you did when you didn't know better isn't your final chapter. But here's the thing. Your story won't change just because you wish it would. It changes the moment you start writing again. I've met two kinds of people. The first, they live in reruns. They keep replaying the same moment, the same heartbreak, the same betrayal, as if repetition could somehow rewrite it. Their language never changes. I should have known. I can't believe they did that. Why me? They become curators of their own pain museum, giving tours to anyone who'll listen. The second, they use the same pain as blueprint. They study it, they face it, they ask, what did this teach me about me? They don't pretend it didn't happen, they translate it. They take every scar, every failure, every humiliation, and stitch it into a story that doesn't end with victimhood, but with wisdom. And the crazy part? Both people felt the same pain. Only one chose to edit the ending. Look, I know it hurts. I know the chapters you never talk about still echo at night. But you can't keep letting old versions of yourself hold the pen. You can't let the voice of shame narrate a life that's still being written. And here's an unexpected truth. Memory lies. Not because it's evil, but because it's emotional. The brain edits every replay to protect you. It changes colors, blurs details, amplifies fear. And if you never challenge that script, you'll start living inside fiction and calling it truth. That's why owning your story isn't just emotional work. It's mental training. You've got to interrogate your own narrative until it starts telling the truth again. So how do you start? First, practice 1. Rewrite your mornings. Before the world tells you who you are, remind yourself who you've decided to become. Every morning, Write 3 sentences that begin with, "Today, my story is," and don't lie. Don't make it pretty. Make it real. Maybe today your story is healing hurts. Maybe tomorrow it's progress feels slow. Maybe next week it's I'm not where I was. That's how you reclaim authorship, by writing in present tense, not past regret. Practice 2. Speak without editing. Once a day, say your truth out loud, even if it's ugly. Not to perform it, to purify it. When you give pain a voice, it stops screaming from the shadows. Stand in front of a mirror and tell the truth you're afraid to say to anyone else. Not because you need to post it, because your reflection needs to hear it. Listen, most people never heal because they keep trying to be understood before they've understood themselves. But when you own your story, you stop begging for validation. You start creating direction. I'll tell you something raw. There was a time I hated my own reflection, not because of what I saw, but because of what I remembered. Every mistake, every failure, every betrayal stared back at me. And one night I whispered, "I don't even know who I am anymore." And that voice, that broken whisper, became the turning point. Because owning your story doesn't start when you're strong. It starts when you're tired of hiding. Real talk. The world will always try to define you by your worst day. It's easier for them. It keeps them comfortable. Because when you rise, they have to confront the version of you they never believed could exist. That's why you can't hand them your pen anymore. They don't deserve creative control over your narrative. Every day you breathe, you get a blank page. And the past, it's reference material, not destiny. So stop editing yourself down to what others can understand. Stop deleting paragraphs that show your growth just because someone else preferred your first draft. You are not a tragedy. You are a manuscript in revision. And revision isn't weakness, it's mastery. It means you cared enough to improve the work called you. Here's something nobody tells you. Owning your story doesn't mean loving every page. It means respecting the author enough to keep writing. So, brother, when you wake up tomorrow, don't just replay the plot, rewrite the tone. Don't chase closure, choose clarity. Don't wait for approval, give yourself permission. And when the memories start whispering that you're not enough, that you failed too many times, that you've been forgotten, remind them who's holding the pen now. Because healing isn't erasing the past, it's standing in front of it without flinching. And standing requires structure. Not chains, clarity. Not punishment, discipline. Discipline. There's a strange paradox that most people never understand until life breaks them into clarity. The chains that set you free, the walls that open doors. Sounds crazy, right? Because the world teaches you that freedom means doing whatever you want, whenever you want. But that's not freedom. That's drift. That's noise with no melody. Real freedom is rhythm. Real freedom is knowing you could fall apart, but you don't, because your habits hold you together when your emotions don't. Brother, listen. The man who won't discipline himself will always be disciplined by the world. And that's a harder sentence, because if you don't build your own structure, life will hand you someone else's schedule, someone else's priorities, someone else's leash, and call it normal. See, discipline is the quiet architect of every victory you'll ever claim. It's not glamorous. It's not loud. It doesn't trend. But it's the difference between men who wake up and move the day and men who wake up and are moved by it. Here's the mind shift. Structure doesn't limit your potential, it releases it. Because without it, your dreams leak energy through every distraction, every impulse, every wasted hour. When your foundation is chaos, your creativity becomes survival. But when your foundation is order, your imagination finally has the space to soar. That's why the most spontaneous people you know are often the most structured. Their calendars are tight, their rituals precise, their boundaries clear, and that's exactly what gives them room to improvise. You can't play jazz without first mastering scales. Freedom without form is just noise. Discipline turns that noise into symphony. Look, I used to think discipline meant control, meant cold repetition, no joy, no soul. But I learned the truth is deeper. Discipline is love in motion. It's self-respect made visible. It's saying, I deserve consistency. It's not punishment, it's permission. Permission to build a life that doesn't depend on mood, motivation, or validation. And if we go deeper, biology agrees. The brain craves structure. Your prefrontal cortex, that's your internal CEO, loves predictability. Every routine you master reduces decision fatigue, frees up mental bandwidth, and sharpens focus. The more disciplined your mornings, the more creative your afternoons. Your body feels safer, your nervous system relaxes, and in that calm, genius wakes up. But without discipline, you become a slave to your chemistry. Dopamine pulls your strings. Cortisol sets your mood. Every ping, every scroll, every craving becomes a command you obey. And that's the hidden prison most people never escape, because it doesn't have walls. It has Wi-Fi. So here's your tactical truth. Discipline isn't about control, it's about design. Design your time, design your energy, design your environment, and you'll start designing your destiny. The trinity of daily discipline: time, fitness, focus. Time. Protect your mornings like sacred ground. Don't start the day with noise. Start it with intention. Before you check your phone, check your purpose. 15 minutes, silence, breath, and planning. No scrolling, no reacting. You don't open the door to chaos before you've opened the door to yourself. Fitness, movement before motivation. It doesn't have to be a gym. Walk, stretch, push, breathe. Train the body to obey when the mind hesitates. Because the body remembers discipline even when the mind forgets it. You earn your mental clarity through physical consistency. Focus. Set 3 targets, not 30. Win small, daily, relentlessly. Scatter your attention and you dilute your destiny. But direct it like a laser, and you'll cut through noise others drown in. And when night falls, your evening is your mirror. Evening practice, reflect, and reset. Write down what worked, what drained you, what you're grateful for. That simple ritual trains your subconscious to look for progress instead of problems. It's how you reprogram your brain to wake up focused, not frantic. Real talk. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your discipline. And that's not judgment, that's reality. Because without daily repetition, ambition is just adrenaline. Temporary, intoxicating, and gone by Monday. And I know what you're thinking. But I don't want to be rigid. I want to live. Brother, discipline isn't rigidity. Rigidity breaks. Discipline bends. It adapts. It flexes without losing form. Rigidity says, do it perfectly or don't do it at all. Discipline says, do it anyway, even when it's messy. The fear of discipline comes from misunderstanding it. People think structure kills freedom, but it actually creates it. Because when your actions align with your values, you don't wake up apologizing to yourself anymore. When you live on purpose, your time expands. When you master your impulses, your peace deepens. So here's a counterintuitive truth. Freedom without boundaries isn't freedom. It's bondage. It's drowning in choices that don't move you anywhere. But discipline is the compass that points you home. And I'll tell you this, the most dangerous man isn't the strongest or the loudest. It's the one who can tell himself no and mean it. The one who can delay gratification without killing his drive. The one who can endure boredom because he knows the work is working even when it's silent. I've seen people with every talent in the world collapse under their own inconsistency. And I've seen men with average gifts rise to greatness because they kept showing up. The world isn't moved by potential. It's moved by persistence. So, brother, start with one promise. Just one. Something small but sacred. Maybe it's waking up at the same time. Maybe it's writing for 10 minutes. Maybe it's putting your phone in another room while you sleep. Keep that promise until keeping promises becomes your identity. Because once discipline becomes who you are, freedom becomes what you live. And remember, discipline doesn't take away your spontaneity. It gives it purpose. It doesn't kill your joy. It focuses it. It doesn't shrink your life. It gives you the structure to expand it. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent enough to outlast your old self. Every rep, every page, every quiet moment of showing up. That's you, building the architecture of freedom. And when that structure is strong enough, you'll look back and realize the chains were never chains. They were scaffolds. And those walls, they weren't traps. They were training grounds. Discipline isn't the end of freedom. It's the beginning of it. And when you master it, you stop chasing opportunity and start creating it. Because the man who governs himself needs no permission to lead. And leadership. That's where the bridge appears next, between control and creation, between effort and expression, between work and wonder. Brother, too many people dream in lowercase. They whisper when they should roar. They set goals that fit inside their comfort zone and call it realistic. But here's the truth. Small dreams are safe because they don't expose your fear. Big dreams, the kind that stretch your soul, force you to face every insecurity you've been hiding behind discipline and doubt. Small dreams let you stay the same. Big dreams demand you become more. You ever notice how some people look alive but aren't really living? They wake up, go through motions, check boxes, collect paychecks, and yet something inside them keeps screaming, "This can't be all there is." That's the quiet ache of a caged vision. It's your spirit knocking on the walls of average, begging to be released. See, dreaming small is like breathing through a straw. You're alive, but barely. The oxygen of greatness never reaches you because you've convinced yourself it's too much. And here's the hardest truth. You were never meant to fit into ordinary. Your soul came wired for expansion, but you can't expand while protecting comfort. You can't soar while still folding your wings for approval. So let's make it plain. The gap between the dream and the doing is where most people die. Not physically, mentally, spiritually. They see the vision clearly. They even talk about it with conviction. But when the time comes to move, they freeze. Why? Because execution exposes everything talk can hide: laziness, fear, insecurity, ego. The dream looks beautiful from a distance, but up close, it looks like work. And most people don't want to build. They just want to boast. They crave the applause of the destination without enduring the silence of construction. Listen to me. Big dreams are not miracles. They are mathematics. It's input and output, effort and compounding. You want 10 times the result? Then you need 10 times the repetition, 10 times the patience, 10 times the faith. There's no cheat code. There's only the matching principle: big dream, bigger work ethic. The universe doesn't reward wishes. It rewards alignment. And alignment means your actions finally start speaking the same language as your vision. Look, I get it. Working hard feels lonely when no one's clapping. It's easy to wonder if it's even worth it. But the gap between who you are and who you're becoming is bridged by unseen labor. Those 4 a.m. mornings, those weekends when everyone else is sleeping off distraction. That's where destiny notices who's serious. And here's what most won't admit. People don't really fear failure. They fear sustained effort. Because sustained effort exposes weakness. It forces you to face yourself daily, not just occasionally. That's why so many choose good enough. Because good enough feels safe. It gives you an excuse to stop trying without calling it quitting. Good enough is the silent assassin of greatness. It kills potential quietly, politely, one comfortable compromise at a time. But every time you settle, a piece of your vision dies. And every time you push past comfort, that vision gets oxygen again. So how do you dream bigger without getting crushed by the size of the vision? You expand your container. Step 1, exposure. Get around people, places, and possibilities bigger than your current ceiling. You can't imagine what you've never seen. Walk through neighborhoods that scare your limitations. Read books that challenge your normal. Listen to people who stretch your sense of what's possible. Greatness is contagious, but you have to get close enough to catch it. Step 2, immersion. Don't just admire, absorb. Make your environment echo your vision. If you're chasing discipline, fill your room with order. If you're chasing creativity, surround yourself with inspiration. Your mind becomes what it repeatedly encounters. Every wall, every word, every rhythm you live in either expands you or contains you. Step 3, modeling. Find someone who's already doing what you dream to do, not to copy them, but to study the principles behind their success. Ask, what did they sacrifice? What do they prioritize? How do they think under pressure? Success leaves footprints. Humility helps you trace them. But remember, you can't just copy their moves. You must translate them into your own rhythm. Otherwise, you become an imitation, not an inspiration. And brother, the most powerful force and achievement isn't a burst of motivation. It's compounding. 1% a day. Sounds small, right? But 1% improvement daily doesn't add up. It multiplies. By the end of a year, that's not 365% growth. It's 3,700%. Small disciplines done consistently create massive momentum invisibly. So stop chasing overnight success. Start chasing incremental mastery. It's not sexy, but it's undefeated. And I know it's tempting to compare your beginning to someone else's middle, to look at their highlight reel and wonder why you're still rehearsing in private. But every giant started small. Every empire began invisible. Every legend was once ignored. The difference? They didn't confuse slow growth with no growth. They kept working when no one was watching. They kept sharpening their edge while others were showing off dull blades. And real talk, sometimes you'll feel behind. You'll see others getting rewarded for shortcuts, for noise, for pretending. But you stay your course. Because the man who builds slow builds solid. And the foundation you're building through effort will outlast every shortcut they take. Dreaming big is dangerous because it exposes small thinking. It triggers jealousy, criticism, and fear in people who gave up on their own dreams. That's why when you start expanding, you'll lose company. Don't shrink back to fit where you've outgrown. Outgrowing people isn't betrayal, it's becoming. Look, vision isn't supposed to make sense to everyone. If everyone agrees with your dream, it's probably too small. If it doesn't scare you, it's not stretching you. And if it doesn't demand a new level of discipline, it's not evolution, it's entertainment. So repeat this to yourself. Big dream, bigger work. Say it until it burns. Big dream, bigger work. Because the equation never changes. You want to build something eternal? Put in eternal effort. You want to live a story worth remembering? Stop skipping chapters. Every rep you do, every word you write, every hour you invest, it all counts. Nothing wasted, nothing forgotten. The universe keeps score. And one day, when it finally clicks, when your work catches up to your vision, people will call it luck. But you'll know it was labor. So, brother, don't wait for permission to dream audaciously. Build your discipline so strong it can carry the weight of the impossible. Because the dream isn't just about where you're going, it's about who you're becoming while getting there. And the truth is, big dreams don't fail because they're impossible. They fail because people stop working before they start arriving. You've got the tools, you've got the pen. Now, write the kind of story that makes mediocrity uncomfortable. Dream bigger. Work harder every single day. And when the weight gets heavy, good. That's proof your dream is growing muscles. Because the moment your dream starts testing you, it's preparing you for the next battle. And that battle, that refining fire, that's where we're headed next. You'll know who's real, not when you're shining, but when the light flickers. Betrayal doesn't knock. It slips in quietly, wearing the face of familiarity. It calls you brother. It calls you friend. It hugs you while studying where to stab. Listen to me. The hardest lesson you'll ever learn is that loyalty and longevity are not the same thing. Some people are seasonal blessings. Others are disguised teachers. And the ones who betray you, they're the curriculum. Betrayal is not the end of your story. It's the revelation of who never belonged in the next chapter. It's not punishment, it's purification. It's life removing the unready before you rise. Brother, I know it burns. I know what it feels like to stare at a phone that used to light up with their name and realize the silence now is permanent. That ache in your chest, That's the sound of false connection breaking. But hear me, pain has perfect timing. It doesn't come to destroy you, it comes to detox you. We think betrayal ruins us, but what it really does is refine us. It filters noise, tightens focus, and teaches the most sacred wisdom. Trust the pattern, not the promise. You trusted their words. But patterns never lie. Words perform. Patterns reveal. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You'll notice the half smiles, the quiet envy, the applause that sounds hollow. The truth is, betrayal isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle neglect. It's when they stop celebrating your wins. It's when your growth triggers their insecurity. So you ask yourself, what did I do wrong? And the answer is brutal in its simplicity. You grew. Your elevation offended their comfort. Your light exposed their shadow. And instead of rising with you, they chose resentment. But let me tell you something powerful. Betrayal is divine subtraction. It's the universe editing your cast before the climax. Because you cannot carry dead weight into destiny. You see, trust isn't built in comfort. It's tested in conflict. And when conflict comes, masks fall. You finally meet the real people behind the pretty promises. Think about Jesus. Even he had Judas. Betrayal isn't proof that you're cursed. It's proof that you're chosen. Only people with purpose attract betrayal. Because your light draws both believers and thieves. Let me paint you a picture. There was a man I once knew, loyal to the bone, helped everyone, trusted everyone. When he started winning, his circle shifted. They smiled in daylight, plotted by midnight. He lost everything: money, trust, peace. But instead of breaking, he started building. Brick by brick, silence by silence. He said, "The betrayal freed me from fake loyalty." 5 years later, he owned everything he once begged to be part of. And the same people who betrayed him, they now quote him. That's the paradox. Betrayal feels like destruction, but often births dominance. So don't curse the knife. Study its lesson. It cut what was killing you. Every backstab leaves a scar, but scars are armor now. Proof that you've survived, not symbols of defeat. There's a reason gold is purified by fire, not by comfort. Betrayal is that fire. It melts illusion, separates pure from fake, valuable from valueless. Let's talk psychology for a moment. The mind struggles most, not with loss itself, but with the story around it. You tell yourself, they did this because I wasn't enough. No, they did it because they couldn't handle enough. Your authenticity triggered their insecurity. The brain wants closure, a neat explanation, but betrayal doesn't give that. It gives chaos. And your healing starts the moment you stop searching for reasons and start searching for rhythm. Because life moves, even when loyalty doesn't. Here's what you do next, practical and powerful. First, practice discernment daily. Not everyone deserves access. Before you share dreams, test intentions. Talk less, observe more. Betrayal rarely blindsides people who listen to silence. Second, use solitude as strategy. When betrayal empties your table, don't rush to refill it. Sit with the silence. Rebuild your boundaries. Your peace is sacred ground. Guard it. And third, transmute pain into precision. Don't just heal, evolve. Take every wound and let it shape your wisdom. Journal what you learned. Design new standards. Build systems that protect your energy. Remember this: you can forgive and still never reopen the door. Forgiveness is peace. Access is privilege. Not everyone gets both. And here's the unexpected truth: betrayal clarifies destiny faster than success does. Success multiplies options. Betrayal multiplies truth. It teaches you what kind of soil you're planted in. It reveals who applauds the tree but steals the fruit. But you, my brother, you're different now. You've seen behind the curtain. You understand that betrayal doesn't shrink your heart. It sharpens your vision. You walk lighter, speak slower, trust wiser. Some betrayals cut deep enough to feel like death, but that's exactly what they are: the death of an old version of you. The one that tolerated too much, believed too fast, gave too freely. That self had to die for your discernment to be born. You don't owe explanations anymore. Silence is your closure. Success is your response. Peace is your revenge. So when the next storm comes, you'll recognize it not as tragedy, but as transition. Because now you know, betrayal was never about them leaving you. It was about you leaving who you were. And when you look back one day, standing in rooms you once dreamed of, shaking hands with people who honor your journey, you'll smile, not with bitterness, but with understanding. You'll whisper to yourself, "Every knife built my crown." And that's not poetry. That's truth forged in pain. So fall forward through betrayal. Let it test, let it tear, let it teach. Because every disappointment refines your circle and purifies your purpose. And when that purpose begins to bloom, when your discipline kicks in and your focus locks tight, you'll realize something sacred. Betrayal wasn't your ending. It was your beginning. Iron sharpens iron, but rust spreads rust. And you know what that means, brother? Your circle is either shaping your edge or dulling your purpose. Every conversation is a transfer of energy. Every friendship, a silent contract of direction. Listen to me. Your destiny is never an individual event. It's a collective reflection. Show me your 5 closest people, and I'll show you the gravity pulling your life. Not your goals, not your dreams, your gravity. Because energy travels faster than intention. You can wake up with discipline, but sit beside someone who complains long enough, and their tone rewrites your ambition. That's not philosophy. That's neuroscience. Mirror neurons make you copy the emotions around you. Joy, fear, drive, doubt, all contagious. So when I say environment is destiny, I'm not being poetic. I'm being biological. Brother, look around you. Who are you becoming just by being in that room? Who are you imitating without realizing it? Every circle has a temperature, and you will adjust to it. If your circle laughs at mediocrity, you'll become allergic to excellence. If they celebrate excuses, you'll start calling laziness balance. But if you walk with builders, dreamers, soldiers of purpose, you'll feel ashamed to stay average. That's the power of proximity. We become what we sit beside. And too many men are dying slow deaths beside people who don't demand growth. Let's run a circle audit. 5 questions, raw and revealing. First, who inspires me without saying a word? Second, who drains me even when the conversation seems harmless? Third, who celebrates my growth, not just my comfort? Fourth, who holds me accountable when I drift? And fifth, who would clap for me even if they never benefit? If those names don't surface quickly, brother, it's time to clean the room. Because comfort isn't connection. Comfort is the trap that makes you confuse peace with passivity. Real connection challenges you. It's the friend who says, I love you, but you're slipping. It's the mentor who looks you in the eye and says, you can do better than this version of yourself. See, we've romanticized loyalty. But loyalty without accountability is just enabling. The circle that loves you without checking you doesn't love your destiny, only your comfort. True brotherhood has balance, love with standards, warmth with warning. That's what keeps a man sharp. I've seen men lose empires because they surrounded themselves with echoes instead of mirrors. Echoes flatter, mirrors reveal, and revelation hurts, but it saves. You don't need more cheerleaders. You need challengers. Men who won't let you settle for average days and wasted gifts. Brothers who make you reread your goals because they see something greater in you than you see in yourself. That's accountability. It's not shouting. It's standing beside you in the storm and saying, I'm not leaving, but you better steer. So how do you find that circle? First, go where growth hides. Rooms with higher conversations, not louder ones. Study groups, gyms, mentorship programs, creative spaces. Anywhere people talk in verbs, not excuses. Second, give what you seek. Become the standard you want to attract. You can't ask for loyal warriors if you live like a wandering tourist. Third, test loyalty with silence. Pull back, observe who checks in, who fades, who gossips. Distance exposes what presence was hiding. And when it's time to leave toxic circles, do it with grace, not grenades. You don't need to announce exits, just evolve. Growth speaks louder than confrontation. You'll notice when you rise, the noise fades naturally. You don't owe explanations for outgrowing someone. You owe gratitude. They taught you what you won't tolerate again. And when guilt whispers, you changed, smile and say, I was supposed to. Brother, protect your environment like your lungs. You can't breathe purpose in polluted air. There's a difference between being around people who love you and those who understand your mission. The first group comforts you. The second group calls you higher. Both matter, but only one builds legacy. Remember this, greatness doesn't grow in gardens of gossip. It grows in fields of accountability. If your circle isn't praying, planning, or pushing, it's pulling. And I'll tell you something few admit. Loneliness for a season is cheaper than loyalty to the wrong crowd. Silence will grow you faster than shallow company ever could. Build what I call the brotherhood triangle. 3 roles that every man needs around him. A mentor above, to pour wisdom. A brother beside, to share the war. A student below, to remind you to stay humble. Keep that triangle alive, and you'll never spiritually starve. See, this isn't just about people. It's about energy alignment. If everyone around you is surviving, you'll stop dreaming. But if you surround yourself with creators, you'll start expanding. Ambition is borrowed by proximity. And the secret? When you elevate your circle elevates your standard until excellence becomes your normal. Think of it like training altitude. When you practice among giants, your lungs of ambition stretch wider. When you return to normal air, everything feels lighter, so keep your circle high pressure. People who question your laziness, not your dreams, who ask, how far have you come? Not, why are you working so hard? Because, brother, mediocrity is a virus, and your immunity is your environment. And here's the mantra: sharpen each other, elevate together. Repeat it when you wake up. Repeat it before you sleep. That's not just motivation, it's maintenance. Iron sharpens iron. Rust spreads rust. And you choose which you'll be surrounded by. As you keep building, you'll notice the higher you go, the smaller the circle gets. That's not loneliness. That's concentration. Quality over quantity. Alignment over attachment. And when your circle locks in, when everyone moves with shared purpose, something miraculous happens. Energy compounds. You start thinking faster, working cleaner, dreaming bigger. You become the product of synergy, not survival. But don't worship the circle. People matter, but purpose outlasts applause. Your mission must stay bigger than your relationships, because one day, even brothers will take different paths. And that's okay. The bond was the training ground, not the destination. So love deeply, trust wisely, walk carefully. And remember, your environment isn't just where you live, it's what you allow. Protect it with everything you have, because the wrong circle will cost you years, but the right one will collapse decades into days. That's how destiny works. Through proximity, through energy, through shared fire. Iron sharpens iron. Rust spreads rust. Choose wisely. Choose intentionally. Choose your circle, and you'll choose your future. Applause fades in seconds, but legacy echoes for generations. That's the divide, brother. The sound that flatters you today versus the silence that remembers you tomorrow. And too many men are trading eternity for attention. We're living in an age where validation has become the new drug. You post something, they clap, dopamine hits. And for a moment, it feels like meaning. But it's not meaning. It's micro approval. It evaporates faster than sweat. Look, I get it. We're wired to want to be seen. No one dreams of being invisible. But here's the truth. The more you chase eyes, the more you lose sight. Because attention isn't achievement, and visibility isn't value. Scroll long enough, and you'll see thousands of successful faces. Influencers with reach, but no roots. Fame without foundation. Numbers without nobility. And when the algorithm shifts, so does their identity. Real impact doesn't need an algorithm. It needs alignment. You don't measure it in followers. You measure it in futures changed. There's a difference between being known and being remembered. The world might know your name for a year, but legacy whispers it in the hearts of your grandchildren. Imagine this, your great-grandchildren sitting around a table talking about you. What will they say? He went viral? Or he stood for something? Likes disappear. Legacy remains. And the people chasing the former will always run out of breath before they reach the latter. See, digital success looks like attention. Real success feels like alignment. Digital success is built in moments. Legacy is built in decades. One fades when the feed refreshes. The other compounds when you're gone. The trap is subtle. You start creating for claps, not conviction. You tailor truth for approval instead of impact. And once you do that, you're no longer leading, you're performing. Legacy requires privacy. It's built in rooms with no applause. Early mornings, late nights, quiet sacrifices. No one records. Those unseen hours. That's where legends are born. You don't build legacy by showing up perfect. You build it by showing up consistent. Think about the giants of history, the ones whose names still live in books and hearts. None of them had likes. None of them had hashtags. They had vision. They had conviction. They didn't need the world to agree before they moved. They built first, then the world understood later. But today, everyone wants to be understood before they act. We want confirmation before courage. That's backward. Legacy demands faith before proof. You move without applause, trusting that meaning will outlast misunderstanding. You want to know what your great-grandchildren will remember? Not your cars, not your followers. They'll remember how you treated people when no one was watching. They'll remember the stories their parents told, the ones about your integrity when compromise was easier. That's legacy. So here's the question. Are you building a moment or a monument? Because moments vanish. Monuments remain. And a monument isn't marble, it's memory. Brother, here's the raw truth. If likes guide your direction, you'll live like a wind vane, spinning with every opinion. But if legacy anchors your compass, you'll move like a mountain, unshaken by noise. Legacy is built through private discipline. It's what you do when no one claps. It's the decision to keep your word when no one's checking, to show up early, to stay humble, to keep growing even when the crowd moves on. Every private choice is a brick in your legacy. The small acts, the silent commitments, that's how greatness accumulates. You want to know what separates legends from noise? It's not talent. It's consistency. The internet rewards loudness. History rewards longevity. And you can't chase both. Comparison is poison. You scroll and see someone your age doing more, owning more, achieving more, and suddenly your progress feels like a problem. But you're not behind. You're just on your path. And your path has different timing. FOMO, the fear of missing out, is the thief of fulfillment. It tricks you into chasing what's trending instead of what's true. You can't build a legacy on borrowed timelines. You build it by mastering your lane day after day, unseen, uncelebrated, unshakable. The world says, get noticed. Legacy whispers, make a difference. And here's the irony. When you focus on legacy, attention finds you anyway. Because authenticity cuts through noise. When your life aligns with your purpose, people feel it. They might not click, but they remember. And memory outlasts metrics. Real talk. I've been in rooms where applause was deafening and meaning was absent. And I've stood alone in silence, doing unseen work, feeling the weight of purpose. And that silence was sacred. That's where legacy breathes. You don't chase claps when you understand that your work is a letter to the future. Every act of integrity, every lesson taught, every life touched, that's ink on the pages of tomorrow. Legacy isn't loud. It's steady. It's humble. It's permanent. The world measures impact in views. Heaven, history, whatever you call it, measures it in value. How many lives did you elevate? How many souls did you strengthen? How many people found light because you refused to dim yours? Your legacy is written in how others live because you lived. So build quietly, serve deeply, Speak truth even when it costs you applause. You want practical? Here it is. Morning discipline. Spend 10 minutes remembering who you're doing it for, not the followers, the family, the future. Evening discipline. Ask yourself, did I move one step closer to what outlives me? Because legacy is built in micro movements, tiny alignments repeated over years. And the paradox? The more you focus on legacy, the freer you become from approval. You stop chasing validation and start radiating conviction. That's freedom. That's peace. Brother, one day the applause will stop. The screens will go dark. The notifications will end. And only one thing will echo: the work you did when no one was watching. So build something worth echoing. Likes disappear. Legacy remains. Applause fades. Integrity amplifies. Trends die. Truth endures. You are not here to impress. You are here to imprint. And when the dust settles, the metrics vanish. The names change. Your impact will still stand. Because legacy is not what you leave behind. It's what you build within. And brother, that's the only currency time can't devalue. Applause fades in seconds, but legacy echoes for generations. That's the divide, brother. The sound that flatters you today versus the silence that remembers you tomorrow. And too many men are trading eternity for attention. We're living in an age where validation has become the new drug. You post something, they clap, dopamine hits. And for a moment, it feels like meaning. But it's not meaning. It's micro approval. It evaporates faster than sweat. Look, I get it. We're wired to want to be seen. No one dreams of being invisible. But here's the truth. The more you chase eyes, the more you lose sight. Because attention is an achievement and visibility isn't value. Scroll long enough and you'll see thousands of successful faces. Influencers with reach but no roots. Fame without foundation. Numbers without nobility. And when the algorithm shifts, so does their identity. Real impact doesn't need an algorithm. It needs alignment. You don't measure it in followers. You measure it in futures changed. There's a difference between being known and being remembered. The world might know your name for a year, but legacy whispers it in the hearts of your grandchildren. Imagine this, your great-grandchildren sitting around a table talking about you. What will they say? He went viral? Or he stood for something. Likes disappear. Legacy remains. And the people chasing the former will always run out of breath before they reach the latter. See, digital success looks like attention. Real success feels like alignment. Digital success is built in moments. Legacy is built in decades. One fades when the feed refreshes, the other compounds when you're gone. The trap is subtle. You start creating for claps, not conviction. You tailor truth for approval instead of impact. And once you do that, you're no longer leading, you're performing. Legacy requires privacy. It's built in rooms with no applause. Early mornings, late nights, quiet sacrifices no one records. Those unseen hours, that's where legends are born. You don't build legacy by showing up perfect. You build it by showing up consistent. Think about the giants of history, the ones whose names still live in books and hearts. None of them had likes. None of them had hashtags. They had vision. They had conviction. They didn't need the world to agree before they moved. They built first, then the world understood later. But today, everyone wants to be understood before they act. We want confirmation before courage. That's backward. Legacy demands faith before proof. You move without applause, trusting that meaning will outlast misunderstanding. You want to know what your great-grandchildren will remember? Not your cars, not your followers. They'll remember how you treated people when no one was watching. They'll remember the stories their parents told, the ones about your integrity when compromise was easier. That's legacy. So here's the question. Are you building a moment or a monument? Because moments vanish. Monuments remain. And a monument isn't marble, it's memory. Brother, here's the raw truth. If likes guide your direction, you'll live like a wind vane, spinning with every opinion. But if legacy anchors your compass, you'll move like a mountain, unshaken by noise. Legacy is built through private discipline. It's what you do when no one claps. It's the decision to keep your word when no one's checking, to show up early, to stay humble, to keep growing even when the crowd moves on. Every private choice is a brick in your legacy. The small acts, the silent commitments, that's how greatness accumulates. You want to know what separates legends from noise? It's not talent. It's consistency. The internet rewards loudness. History rewards longevity. And you can't chase both. Comparison is poison. You scroll and see someone your age doing more, owning more, achieving more, and suddenly your progress feels like a problem. But you're not behind. You're just on your path. And your path has different timing. FOMO, the fear of missing out, is the thief of fulfillment. It tricks you into chasing what's trending instead of what's true. You can't build a legacy on borrowed timelines. You build it by mastering your lane, day after day, unseen, uncelebrated, unshakable. The world says, get noticed. Legacy whispers, make a difference. And here's the irony. When you focus on legacy, attention finds you anyway. Because authenticity cuts through noise. When your life aligns with your purpose, people feel it. They might not click, but they remember. And memory outlasts metrics. Real talk. I've been in rooms where applause was deafening and meaning was absent, and I've stood alone in silence, doing unseen work, feeling the weight of purpose, and that silence was sacred. That's where legacy breathes. You don't chase claps when you understand that your work is a letter to the future. Every act of integrity, every lesson taught, every life touched, that's ink on the pages of tomorrow. Legacy isn't loud. It's steady, it's humble, it's permanent. The world measures impact in views. Heaven, history, whatever you call it, measures it in value. How many lives did you elevate? How many souls did you strengthen? How many people found light because you refused to dim yours? Your legacy is written in how others live because you lived. So build quietly. Serve deeply. Speak truth even when it costs you applause. You want practical? Here it is. Morning discipline. Spend 10 minutes remembering who you're doing it for. Not the followers, the family, the future. Evening discipline. Ask yourself, did I move one step closer to what outlives me? Because legacy is built in micro movements, tiny alignments repeated over years. And the paradox? The more you focus on legacy, the freer you become from approval. You stop chasing validation and start radiating conviction. That's freedom. That's peace. Brother, one day the applause will stop. The screens will go dark. The notifications will end. And only one thing will echo: the work you did when no one was watching. So build something worth echoing. Likes disappear. Legacy remains. Applause fades. Integrity amplifies. Trends die. Truth endures. You are not here to impress. You are here to imprint. And when the dust settles, the metrics vanish, the names change. Your impact will still stand, because legacy is not what you leave behind. It's what you build within. And brother, that's the only currency time can't devalue. When the storm comes, and it's not the branches that decide your survival. It's the roots. The unseen foundation beneath the surface. The part no one applauds, no one notices, no one posts about. That's faith. Faith is your anchor when the winds rage. It's what keeps you steady when everything else is shaking. It's the whisper that says, stand your ground, when fear screams, run. See, faith isn't about ignoring the storm. It's about knowing there's a deeper strength beneath your feet. It's not wishful thinking or blind optimism. Faith is structure. It's foundation. It's quiet steel under the soil. When the world doubts, faith digs deeper. When everything collapses, faith holds the line. But hear this, faith is not waiting. Faith is walking. Faith moves. Faith steps forward even when the road disappears under your feet. It's action with no guarantee. Obedience without evidence. You don't wait for the sea to part. You walk until your toes touch the water. Because faith isn't just belief, it's motion. It's courage in motion. It's discipline with direction. It's the decision to act like the promise is already on the way. Hope wants to see the light. Faith walks in the dark. Optimism says, it'll get better. Faith says, even if it doesn't, I'll still stand. Hope is a feeling. Faith is a force. It's not about emotions. It's about endurance. It's the steady hand that holds even when the heart trembles. Think of it like this. Faith is the bridge between where you are and where you're meant to be. You can't see the entire span. You just take one step, then another, and somehow the bridge builds itself beneath your feet as you move. You don't need to see the destination to start walking. You just need to trust the builder. That's how every miracle begins, not with proof, but with pursuit. Noah didn't wait for the rain forecast before building the ark. He built in sunshine. Moses didn't wait for the Red Sea to split. He raised his staff first. David didn't wait for Goliath to fall before he took his shot. Faith moves before the outcome. Faith acts as if the unseen is already unfolding. And doubt always visits. It knocks on every believer's door. But faith doesn't let it unpack its bags. Doubt might whisper, what if? Faith answers, even if. Faith doesn't require the absence of doubt. It requires dominance over it. It says, I see the facts, but I believe the truth. If you want to build unshakable faith, you build it like you build muscle, through repetition, resistance, and rest. You don't pray for easy days. You practice consistency on hard ones. Faith grows when you keep going without applause, when you do the right thing and nobody sees it, when you forgive without reason, when you serve without reward. 3 practices build that kind of faith. First, gratitude as grounding. Every morning, name 3 things you're thankful for, not because life is perfect, but because faith trains your eyes to find the good. Gratitude builds spiritual muscle memory. Second, truth declaration. Every day, speak what you want to see before it exists. Say it with conviction. I am equipped. I am growing. I am protected. I am walking in purpose. Your words carve pathways in your brain. Speak faith until it feels real. Then watch it become real. Third, purposeful movement. Faith without works is a parked car with the engine running. Move. Send the message. Apply for the job. Write the page. Take the walk. Start the prayer. Show heaven you're serious. Faith works in motion. Remember this rhythm. Believe beyond sight. Trust beyond feeling. Stand when others kneel. That's mountain faith. Not fragile, not loud, not desperate. It doesn't panic when the clouds roll in. It just stands. Because mountains don't run from storms. They make storms change direction. And when your faith gets tested, and it will, remember that testing isn't punishment. It's proof. Pressure reveals whether your faith is built on sand or stone. If your foundation is applause, you'll crumble when they stop clapping. But if your foundation is faith, if you built it in silence, if you built it in tears, if you built it in solitude, no storm can move you. Faith doesn't always change the situation. Sometimes it changes you. And that's the real miracle. It turns panic into peace, waiting into walking, questions into conviction. It's not about getting what you want. It's about becoming who you're meant to be while you wait. Because faith is what turns survivors into leaders. It's what transforms broken people into builders. It's what turns pain into purpose, fear into fire, trials into testimonies. Faith builds leaders, and leaders change worlds. The ones who stand tallest aren't the ones who never fell. They're the ones who kept believing through the fall. So if you're standing in the dark right now, don't curse it. Plant something in it. If you're walking through silence, trust that roots are growing underground. Faith doesn't need to see the sun to know the dawn is coming. It just keeps walking, one step, one breath, one prayer at a time. And when you do, something shifts. Peace replaces panic. Conviction replaces confusion. You stop begging for signs and start becoming one. Faith isn't a finish line. It's the fire that keeps you moving through the fog. It's the light you carry into every fight. And when that faith lives in you, really lives in you, you stop fearing what's ahead because you know who's walking beside you. That's the quiet strength of a mountain, unmoved, unbreakable, unseen at its base, but towering in its faith. Leadership isn't standing on the mountain. It's being the first to step into the fire and the last to walk out. It's the man who leads, not because he wants to be seen, but because something inside him refuses to watch others fall. It's the one who says, I'll go first. Listen, titles can be handed out. Badges can be printed. Followers can be bought. But real leadership, that's earned in the dark when nobody's clapping. It's proven through pressure, through storms, through moments when everything in you wants to sit down, but you stand anyway. See, titles are given, but leadership is taken daily. It's not a crown, it's a cross. It's not comfort, it's calling. You don't wait to be chosen. You choose yourself. Because authority doesn't come from rank, it comes from responsibility. Every time you take ownership, every time you show up when no one's watching, every time you keep your word when it costs you, that's leadership. Let me tell you the truth. Authority can make people obey you. Influence makes people believe in you. One fades the moment you leave the room. The other lasts long after you're gone. That's the difference between position and impact. You can't command hearts, you have to earn them. You can't demand loyalty, you must inspire it. And yet, so many good men wait. They hesitate. They say, when I'm ready, when I'm perfect, when someone asks me. But brother, no one's coming to tap you on the shoulder. The battlefield doesn't wait for your confidence. The world is burning, and leadership is not a title, it's a response. You lead because there's a fire that won't let you watch others suffer in silence. You lead because you've walked through your own hell and came back carrying a map. That's why self-mastery comes first, because you can't lead others out of chaos if you're drowning in your own. Before you lead anyone, you have to command yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, your habits, your character. You have to win the private battles no one sees. You can't preach focus and live distracted. You can't demand integrity and cheat yourself. You can't talk discipline and hit snooze 10 times. Leadership starts with mastery of the man in the mirror. Master your emotions. Because uncontrolled anger burns bridges faster than it builds armies. Master your habits. Because small disciplines determine great destinies. Master your character. Because charisma might open doors, but character keeps them open. That's the real promotion, when you've proven to yourself that your word has weight. But hear me, leadership isn't dominance, it's service. There's a difference between a ruler and a shepherd. Dominant leaders demand, servant leaders deliver. The first uses fear, the second uses faith. The first builds a kingdom for himself, the second builds one that outlives him. One says, follow me. The other says, let's go together. The strongest leaders don't flex power, they create it in others. They're not obsessed with being the loudest voice, but with amplifying the quiet ones. They protect, they provide, they prepare. That's strength with humility, power under control. But make no mistake, leadership is lonely. You'll walk roads few understand. You'll carry weights you can't share. You'll make decisions that no one thanks you for. Because the higher you climb, the thinner the air. And loneliness? It's the tax on greatness. It's the cost of conviction. But that solitude, that's where clarity is born. That's where purpose becomes pure. You see, leadership isn't about spotlight moments. It's about what happens when no one's watching. It's about integrity in the invisible. Do you do the right thing when nobody will ever know? Do you hold the standard when it's inconvenient? Private leadership is the soil of public credibility. Every great man you've admired earned his power in private before he ever held it in public. So rise first. Lead by example. Repeat daily. That's the rhythm. Rise before the excuses. Led before the applause. Repeat before the results. That's how you build legacy, one unseen act of discipline at a time. You want to know what separates a leader from the crowd. He doesn't wait for comfort to start moving. He doesn't need validation to stay consistent. He doesn't quit when it hurts. He carries on because others are watching how he handles the fire. And here's the truth. When you rise, others rise. When you stay strong, others remember. They can too. Your courage becomes contagious. Your consistency becomes culture. Your scars become scripture for someone still bleeding. You become the proof that pain can produce power, that failure can birth focus, that endurance can rewrite destiny. You don't need a microphone to lead, just a mission. You don't need an audience, just authenticity. You don't need approval, just alignment with purpose. The greatest leaders are often the quietest ones. They move mountains while others make noise. So if you've been waiting for permission to rise, consider this it. You are called to lead. Not later, not someday, not when it's safe. Now, because the world doesn't need more talkers, it needs more walkers. It needs men and women whose steps leave maps. And when it's all said and done, leadership isn't about how many followed you. It's about how many rose because you did. It's about the lives you lifted, the hearts you healed, the standards you raised. That's legacy leadership, the kind that breathes long after your voice is gone. So rise, lead, and repeat it every single day. Because leaders don't retire, they evolve. They pass the torch, not the throne. And when your fire lights someone else's path, that's when you'll know you didn't just lead for today. You led for generations. You started this journey scarred, unsure, staring at the marks life left on you, wondering if they meant you were broken or chosen. You didn't know then that every wound was a map. Every pain line carved into your story was a direction, not a disfigurement. And tonight, you can finally read the map. You faced your past. You owned your story. You stopped hiding behind what happened and started writing what's next. You discovered that scars aren't signs of weakness. They're coordinates of survival. You found the courage to pick up the pen again, to say, I'm not done. Then you learned discipline, the chain that sets a man free. You realize that true freedom isn't doing what you want. It's having the strength to do what's required. You became your own commander, your own architect. Every sunrise became a contract with greatness. Every repetition, every routine, every quiet choice, a brick in the fortress of your future. You started to dream again, but this time bigger. You stopped shrinking yourself to fit the room. You understood that small dreams keep you safe, but big ones set you on fire. You matched your ambition with effort, your faith with grind. You turned someday into schedule, and for the first time, your reflection looked like possibility, not just potential. You fell. You failed. You failed. You hit the ground so hard it rattled your hope, but you didn't stay there. You fell forward. You turned failure into fertilizer. You extracted wisdom from wreckage. You understood that falling doesn't make you a failure. Refusing to rise does. And rise you did, bruised but unbroken. You looked around and realized the circle matters. You stopped feeding the rust and started sharpening iron. You outgrew rooms that didn't grow you. You walked away from comfort disguised as connection. You built a brotherhood of accountability, loyalty, and truth. Men and women who demand your greatness, not your excuses. Then you shifted. You stopped chasing likes and started building legacy. You understood that applause fades, but impact echoes. That your great-grandchildren won't remember your posts. They'll remember your principles. You started choosing what lasts over what trends. And in doing so, you stepped out of noise and into name. You faced pain again, but this time you didn't run. You faced the fire and realized it wasn't meant to destroy you, it was meant to forge you. You learned that pain is not punishment, it's preparation. You became alchemist, turning wounds into wisdom, scars into symbols, and suffering into strength. You stopped asking, "Why me?" and started declaring, "Try me." And when everything shook, when the storm hit, when the night stretched long, you found faith. You stopped waiting for proof and started walking on promise. You learned that faith isn't hoping for rescue, it's rowing through the rain. You believed beyond sight, trusted beyond feeling, and kept standing when others kneeled. You built roots where others built walls. And then you rose, not to be seen, but to serve. You led not by shouting, but by showing. You became the first to step into the fire and the last to leave it. You mastered yourself, your emotions, your habits, your character, because you knew that leading others begins with leading the man in the mirror. You learned that true power doesn't dominate, it elevates. And now we seal it with power. Because this is the moment that divides who you were from who you are. You are not the scar, you are the survivor. You are not the failure, you are the fighter. You are not the dreamer waiting on permission, you are the doer defining direction. You are not the one waiting for the light, you are the one becoming it. Every principle, every trial, every awakening, it all converges here. Your story, your discipline, your dream, your fall, your circle, your legacy, your pain, your faith, your leadership. They weren't separate chapters. They were training grounds for transformation. Each one carving, shaping, burning, refining, until the fire became part of your soul. Now the world will feel it, because when a person owns their story, disciplines their will, dreams without limit, fails forward with faith, surrounds themselves with strength, chooses legacy over applause, turns pain into power, believes beyond sight, and rises to lead, they become unstoppable, unbreakable, unforgettable. You used to ask, "What if I fail?" Now you ask, "What if I fly?" You used to wait for the right moment. Now you create it. You used to whisper your worth. Now your very presence declares it. You are walking proof that everything meant to break you was actually building you, that the fire didn't destroy you, it revealed you. That faith didn't just hold you, it launched you. That leadership wasn't given to you, it grew inside you. So rise, speak, move, build, serve, lead, repeat. Because this is not the end, this is ignition. The beginning of the chapter where your scars become scripture, your silence becomes sound, and your struggle becomes song. You are the story. You are the standard. You are the storm that learned to dance in the rain. You are the leader you once prayed would come. And now, tell me, brother, if not you, then who? If not now, then when? No more waiting. No more hiding. No more almost. You are the fire. You are the proof. You are the power. Because in the end, there is no applause to chase, only greatness to become. Seal it with power.